The gymnasium echoed with a tense silence, broken only by the occasional shuffle of nervous feet. It was supposed to be a routine school assembly, where students gathered to celebrate academic achievements. Instead, it erupted into an unexpected confrontation that would send shockwaves across the nation. Evelyn Carter, the influential wife of Senator William Carter, stood before the crowd, her posture regal yet trembling with barely restrained fury. No one had expected her to confront Sarah Thompson, the passionate history teacher whose unconventional methods had ignited both admiration and controversy. All eyes were glued to Evelyn as her voice, smooth but trembling, cut through the silence. "You're undermining the very foundation of education." The words hung in the air, heavy with accusation and historical echoes of both personal and public battlefields. The gasps from the audience reflected the deep-rooted tension. A woman known for her charity work and polished speeches now stood as an avenger before a teacher whose ideas challenged the status quo. Sarah's brows knitted together in confusion, shock coursing through her. Her hands trembled at her sides as she searched for words to defend herself against accusations that felt more personal than professional. Did Evelyn even understand her methods? The hustle for educational reform? The ghosts from Evelyn's own history, the strict upbringing, the stifling expectations loomed like dark shadows behind her, driving her deeper into the confrontation. The crowd murmured, a wave of whispers rolling through like a storm gathering strength. "What's happening? Is she serious?" Eye shivers ran down the spines of students and faculty alike as attention shifted rapidly between the two women. That hidden connection between them, the whispers of shared pain and contrasting social expectations, hung just out of reach, but palpable. Evelyn's gaze turned tempestuous as she pressed on. "What you teach dismantles the ideals we've built." A flicker of vulnerability shone through her eyes, revealing someone far more complex than the polished public figure. Meanwhile, Sarah, her heart racing with resolve, silently recognized the wounds, the weight of family history, and the demanding role as a senator's wife imposing itself upon Evelyn. As news reporters scrambled for footage and headlines, the assembly morphed into something far more significant than either woman intended. The tension escalated, sparking heated discussions from every corner. Conjectures developing around not just their professional lives, but secrets intertwined, affiliations, disappointments, unspoken truths. The trial loomed ahead, and the atmosphere thickened with urgency. Questions loomed large. Would Evelyn's carefully constructed image shatter under scrutiny? Would Sarah's determination to expose the truth backfire and reveal more than she bargained for? The audience felt it. A spark ignited amidst chaos, raising stakes higher than any could have anticipated. When night fell, silence wrapped around the school like a shroud. Yet unanswered questions lingered in the air. Would Evelyn and Sarah find common ground or become symbols of an unwinnable war? The world watched with bated breath, waiting for the next season of this gripping drama. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer um alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E, já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. The night wrapped around the school like a haunting shroud, the aftermath of the assembly still reverberating. Students shared nervous murmurs in circles. Teachers exchanged uneasy glances, and all anyone could think about was the explosive confrontation between Evelyn Carter and Sarah Thompson. As the clock struck 10, a sharp knock echoed through the empty hallways, cutting the silence like a knife. Principal Anderson had just finished shutting down the lights when he heard it, a frantic pounding at the back door. His heart raced, not out of fear, but intrigue. Who could possibly be out here at this hour? He cautiously opened the door, and there stood a disheveled figure, damp from the rain. Had unexpectedly swept in from nowhere. It was Clara, Evelyn's estranged sister. Her clothes were soaked, and her eyes reflected a wild desperation. "I need to talk to you, now," she gasped, pushing past him into the dimly lit lobby. Principal Anderson frowned. "This isn't the time for—" "But it is," Clara interrupted, her voice rising with urgency. "It's about Evelyn and Sarah. You don't understand. It's worse than you think." He crossed his arms, skepticism clawing at him. But Clara's piercing gaze left no room for doubt. He led her to his office, closing the door behind them. "What's going on?" he asked, a mix of curiosity and concern tightening his chest. "Evelyn and Sarah aren't just teacher and senator's wife. They're connected in ways you can't imagine. It's not just their educational ideas clashing. It's personal, family secrets, secrets that could destroy both of them." Her voice trembled, sweat beading on her brow. "What do you mean?" he pressed. Clara took a deep breath, her words spilling out like a waterfall. "Years ago, before Sarah became a teacher, Evelyn's father was involved in a scandal that ruined lives, including ours. Sarah's family, they were caught in the fallout. Their mother committed suicide because of the stress, leaving Sarah." Clara's voice broke, the pain rushing back. "Evelyn never knew. She doesn't even know that our father was involved. This war between them, it's bigger than education. It's a battle of their families." Principal Anderson sat back in shock, his mind racing as he processed the information. The revelation was a bombshell, and he felt the weight of it shift the air in the room. "Why are you telling me this now?" he stammered, his heart pounding. "Because," she continued, her voice now low and intense, "if they go to trial, all of this will come out. The truth about their families. It will shatter both their lives. And when it does, the community won't just judge them. They'll turn on each other, and on me too." A heavy silence fell between them. The enormity of those words echoed, and the image of Evelyn and Sarah, locked in their battle, morphed entirely in his mind. It wasn't just a professional dispute. It was a family feud rippling through time, a reckless tide that threatened to drown them all. Just then, the school's fire alarm rang out, shrill and urgent, piercing through the tension. Startled, Principal Anderson rushed to the door, peering into the chaos outside. Students were flooding the hallways, panic in their eyes, and amidst the scramble, he caught a glimpse of Evelyn standing there, her expression one of sheer disbelief. "Clara!" he shouted, turning back to find her gone, slipped out the back unexpectedly. "What the hell just happened?" And as he pushed through the crowd, Evelyn's gaze locked onto his, and he felt every ounce of that history pressing down, the weight of unspoken truths. Would the fabric of their shared past unravel before them all? The stakes had never been higher. With one alarming turn of events, everything was on the brink. He could feel it in his bones. As he stepped outside into the freezing night, the chaos swirled around him. The trial was coming, and secrets lay in wait, ready to explode. Bofunder? The questions screamed for answers, and the world was watching. As he stepped outside into the freezing night, chaos engulfed him. The shouts of students mixed with the blaring fire alarm, and the air buzzed with confusion. Principal Anderson battled through the crowd, eyes darting for Evelyn. She seemed frozen, lost in disbelief. But he noticed something else, a strange figure lurking at the edge of the crowd. It was Clara. "Clara!" he called. But she was already gone. Vanishing like a shadow, panic tightened his chest. What did she know? What could she reveal to change the course of everything? "Evelyn!" he shouted, pushing through the throng. Her eyes snapped to his, and he could see the raw fear behind her polished facade. "You need to be careful. There are things." A loud crack echoed. The sound split the night with an awful finality. Everyone turned, gasping, as a flash of light illuminated the gathering storm clouds above. A figure, cloaked in darkness, emerged from the shadows of the trees lining the schoolyard. Caleb, Sarah's brother. But something was off. The glint in his eyes didn't speak of despair. It radiated something far more sinister. As he stepped forward, pulses quickened and hearts raced. Then a gunshot rang out and screams erupted like firecrackers in the darkness. Evelyn dropped to the ground, instinctively shielding herself. Principal Anderson felt the world tilt sideways as chaos erupted around him. Students screamed. Some fell to the ground, while others bolted for the exit. The shock of it gripped him like a vice. "Caleb, no!" Sarah's voice tore through the pandemonium. She was running, eyes wide, desperation painted across her face. Anderson's heart sank. What was happening? What led to this? Caleb, high on adrenaline or rage, the lines obscured in the commotion, stood motionless, gun still raised. "She needs to pay," he shouted, voice trembling. "Both of them need to pay for what they've done." For a fleeting moment, everything stilled. The whispers of the crowd halted, each person frozen in terror as they began to comprehend. The dramatic revelation of familial connections spun wildly across his mind, threading back to Clara's warning. What had Sarah and Evelyn done? What ties bound them to Caleb's wrath? Principal Anderson stepped forward, hands raised. "Stop! You don't need to do this. We can talk." But his voice wavered. The truth pushed against his heart like a heavy boulder. "Talk?" Caleb shouted, voice hoarse with pain. "You think I want to talk? You all have no idea. The damage, the scars. She ruined our lives, our family." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Whispers erupted, secrets they had never known, connections that lay barely hidden, igniting fears and regrets that threatened to consume them all. Then, as if orchestrated by fate, the power went out. Darkness blanketed the school like a shroud, absorbing the sound of gasps and cries. In the pitch black, only the chilling echoes of Caleb's voice remained, twisted with anguish. "I won't let it end like this." Suddenly, a struggle erupted. Sarah, trembling, threw herself in front of Caleb, asserting herself as a shield against the turmoil beneath his rage. "Stop! Listen to me," she begged. "We can end this. We can fix this. But darkness held its breath, the tension palpable. In that moment, the gun fired again, but not at who they expected. Silence enveloped the crowd, hearts racing as they braced for what might come next. Would this act tear apart any hope of reconciliation, unraveling their lives completely? Secrets loomed large over their heads, threatening to rupture every relationship and hope they clung to. And there, amidst the shadows, every one of them stood on the precipice of a truth that could change everything. What lay behind the gunshot? Who would rise from the ashes of this chaos? The night felt impossibly heavy, its answers waiting just out of reach. As the echoes of gunfire faded into an eerie hush, the chaos around Principal Anderson felt suspended in time. The dim light, flickering back to life in fits and starts, cast elongated shadows across terrified faces. The crowd froze, a collective breath held in the thick air, waiting for the storm to break. Sarah stood before Caleb, a desperate silhouette against the mayhem, while Evelyn remained crouched low, eyes wide and horrified. But before thoughts could crystallize, a figure broke through the crowd. It was Clara re-emerging like a ghost from the shadows. She stumbled forward, soaked hair clinging to her face, breathless and wild-eyed. "You have to listen! It's not what you think!" Her voice cracked as she reached for Sarah, urgency lacing her tone. "Clara, get back!" Evelyn shouted, instinctively lunging to protect her sister from whatever madness had descended around them. But Clara pressed on, her gaze locked in on Sarah and Caleb. "No, they need to know." Clara breathed heavily, her voice rising above the noise, desperation spilling from her lips. "It's not just their families that are at stake. There's so much you don't understand. The blood runs deeper than you could ever imagine." The students and faculty shifted uneasily, murmurs of confusion bouncing around like sparks. "What does she mean?" one student whispered to another, brows furrowing in collective curiosity and fear. "Clara, please," Sarah began, her heart racing. "What are you talking about?" But Clara's eyes widened, a raw panic surfacing in her expression. "You have to know about the affair," she shouted. "That wasn't just business. It was personal. Evelyn's father, he was involved. Your mother wasn't just a victim. She was one of the players. They all are." The words hit like a tidal wave, crashing brutally against the brittle dam of tension. A stunned silence followed, breaths caught in throats as shock rippled through the crowd. Caleb's grip on the gun tightened, confusion battling with fury. "What?" he gasped, the truth twisting like a knife in his gut. "He was the one who caused all of it." Clara's voice cracked, desperation clawing at her words. "The debt, the fallout, the loss of your family, it was because of us. Because of me. I'm sorry." She turned to Evelyn, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You need to see, it was never just their war. It was ours." With every syllable, the air grew heavier. The memories of pain threw themselves against the fragile walls they'd built. The truth lay shattered at their feet, pulsing with raw emotion. In a swift motion, Caleb shifted his gaze between Clara, Evelyn, and Sarah, realization dawning. "Wait! What do you mean your mother was involved too? How could she—" A cry shattered the moment. Evelyn sprang to her feet. "Enough!" she screamed, voice breaking like glass. "This isn't the time for blame. Our families were ruined by this, but we wanted to keep our history buried. The pain, it should have stayed hidden." Caleb faltered. "So all the whispers, the rumors, they were real? Is this why Sarah's family? His voice cracked, disbelief flooding through him. She returned his stare, raw emotion coursing through her. I didn't know. Before she could say another word, the ground shifted beneath their feet. An urgent rumbling reverberated. The chaos of screams faded, replaced by an unsettling quiet, followed by a violent crack, and the world erupted around them, the glass doors shattering outward in a wave of splintered wood and chaos. The gasps sounded like the air being sucked from the crowd. A shadowy figure lunged through the debris, a silhouette cast against the moonlight. It was horrifying and breathtaking all at once. A woman, dressed in all black, with a determined glint in her eye, shouted, "I won't let you ruin everything!" And just like that, the night fell into another layer of confusion. Faces turned, fear crisscrossing amongst the crowd, as all eyes were drawn to the unexpected storm. Everything they thought they knew began to unravel, the stakes rising higher than ever, as secrets threatened to slice through the fragile connections they held tight. With the weight of history crashing down, the world around them shifted once more. And as Caleb lowered his gun, the question loomed like a storm cloud, casting a dark shadow over all. Who was the woman that endangering their fragile resolution? The woman in black stepped forward, her silhouette sharp against the shattered glass and shadows. Panic spread through the crowd as she shouted, "I won't let you ruin everything!" Confusion washed over the faces of students and faculty alike, a sudden shift in energy thickening the air. Principal Anderson's heart raced. Who was she? And why? Did her presence feel like an electric shock, pulling everyone into an unfamiliar reality? The gun lowered slightly in Caleb's hand, eyes darting between Clara, Sarah, and this mystery woman. "Wait!" Clara shouted, desperation rising in her voice. "Just listen to her! We all need to know the truth!" The woman stepped into the fading light, revealing a face that brought the crowd to a collective gasp. Annie, Evelyn's long-lost twin sister. The resemblance was striking, yet the differences were equally jarring. The last time anyone had heard of Annie was years ago, amidst rumors of scandal and estrangement. How had she ended up here now? "I'm not just here for Evelyn," Annie continued, her voice full of conviction. "I'm here for Sarah, too. You all have been caught in a web of lies, and it's time to cut through it." Gasps coursed through the crowd. Evelyn's eyes widened, confusion turning into shock. "Annie?" she whispered, taking a hesitant step forward. "Surprise!" Annie shot back, a fire igniting in her eyes. "Or should I say, a long overdue reckoning? You think you know everything about our families? Think again." The atmosphere shifted. Clara's earlier claims about family secrets began to weave together with Annie's reappearance. A fragile thread of connection seemed to spark, one that threatened to unravel decades of pain and mistrust. Caleb blinked, anger suddenly morphing into uncertainty. "What do you mean?" he demanded, the gun wavering at his side. Annie took a deep breath, the gravity of the moment not lost on her. "I overheard everything," she shouted, eyes sweeping across the crowd. "The deals, the secrets, it's all connected. The scandal, our parents destroyed both our families. Evelyn's father and my father, they were partners in crime. Journalists covering up the true story because of their reputations." Stunned silence enveloped them, like a blanket suffocating truth. Evelyn's expression shifted from disbelief to realization, memories flashing behind her eyes. She took another step forward, panic and desperation fighting for dominance. "What are you saying?" Annie clenched her fists, eyes brimming with unrelenting emotion. "You need to know, Evelyn. Your mother, she wasn't innocent. They all played a part in ruining lives. And now, they expect the same fate for us. Their legacy is a twisted trap." The words sliced through the tension. What had once been a confrontation grew into something much larger, resonating with an urgency that demanded acknowledgement. The shadows of their past climbed like vines, squeezing tighter around them. "Enough," Caleb shouted, voice seething with anger. "You think I care about your family drama? You destroyed mine." He lifted the gun again, backsliding into rage. "No!" Sarah sprang forward, eyes blazing with determination. "This is not how it ends. We can fix this." As she stepped into Caleb's line of sight, her voice quivered but held strong. "Stop!" Annie shouted. And for the first time, her voice shattered with emotion. "Look what we've become. This isn't just about revenge. We're trapped in cycles that don't belong to us. It's like our parents are puppeteering this nightmare." The crowd buzzed with whispers, their uncertainty swelling. Students exchanged glances. Teachers murmured anxiously. What was happening? Would their lives ever return to normal? And then, to everyone's shock, the gun went off. But not in anger. A deafening noise rang out, a roar of another kind. An explosion from the entrance of the school. The windows rattled as debris flew, the force sending everyone staggering back. Confusion erupted anew as the crowd scrambled, screams fraying the thin edges of reason. Through the smoke and chaos, figures emerged that sent tremors of fear through the gathered bodies. Caleb, disoriented and bewildered, dropped the gun. With the ground shaking beneath them, a new threat was looming. It eclipsed family feuds and personal longing. What had just happened shifted the ground from under their feet. The reality of the situation flooded back. Histories interwoven with current terror. Who were these intruders? And more importantly, what truths would they bring to light? As chaos spiraled around them, it became clear. The fight was far from over. The web of secrets was beginning to run deeper than anyone had known, with only one certainty remaining. Things would never be the same again. As the echoes of the explosion faded into a tense silence, chaos wrapped around them like a thick fog. Principal Anderson stumbled backward, heart racing, adrenaline surging through his veins. He could see students scrambling, fear painted across their faces, confusion swirling thick in the air. The remnants of broken glass crunched underfoot, the smell of smoke mixing with the panic. Annie stood firm, eyes locked on the unfolding chaos. "We can't let our parents' mistakes define us," she shouted, voice cutting through the panic like a blade. But her words seemed lost amidst the rising tide of fear. Caleb's expression was a whirlwind of confusion and betrayal, still reeling from the truth that had just been dropped into their laps. He lowered the gun slightly, but the tension hung like a noxious cloud. "What do you mean our families are entangled? You think I care about your drama? Stay out of my way." The fear in the crowd grew palpable, whispers ricocheting. "What's happening? Who is she?" Panic rippled through everyone present, but Annie persisted, determination etched into her features. "Caleb, please! It's not just about revenge. We can break free from this cycle." Just then, the ground trembled beneath them again. It felt like the earth itself was protesting against the revelations. The crowd gasped as a heavy smoke rolled in, slicing through their already fragile grasp on reality. Shapes moved within the haze, shadows darting, bearing down like a storm, ready to unleash its fury. Then, out of the smoke emerged a figure, tall and menacing. The crowd shifted, fear palpable in the air. As the silhouette came closer, everyone squinted through the haze. Could it be another twist in this painful saga? It was Ethan, Sarah's long-lost father. A gasp echoed, part disbelief, part dread. He looked older, wearier, and his eyes carried a weight that spoke of years lost to darkness. I had to come back. I couldn't let this go on any longer. His voice cracked under the pressure of the moment. The revelation struck hard, sending shockwaves through the gathered crowd. "Dad?" Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing as she tried to comprehend the impossibility standing before her. You've been gone for years. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I had to protect you all," Ethan shouted, eyes wild with a mix of desperation and anger. "They were coming for you. They were going to make you pay for the sins of our families." A collective intake of breath echoed through the crowd. Questions spiraled. How was this man connected to the chaos? What sins? But before anyone could react, a flicker of recognition crossed Caleb's face. You were the reason my family—" "Enough!" Ethan roared, cutting him off sharply. "This isn't the time for blame. There's no time left." Before he could finish, the ground shook violently again, stronger this time. The lights flickered, illuminating terrified faces in quick bursts, casting strange, elongated shadows that danced across the walls. The crowd erupted into screams, some backing away instinctively, others frozen in place by the sheer weight of the moment. "Everyone, get to safety!" Principal Anderson shouted, trying to maintain some control. But even he felt the gravity of the situation pulling at him. In the panic, Annie seized the moment. "We have to break these cycles. Secrets don't just linger. They fester. It's time to expose the truth." The air crackled with tension, and with every word they could feel something change. Sarah's father, lost and forgotten, stood at the epicenter of the storm, his presence igniting unhealed wounds. Would this revelation bring them closer to understanding, or push them further apart? As Caleb's grip on the gun tightened again, hearts raced with uncertainty. Just as a voice urged to retreat, the tension snapped. A deafening roar emerged from the building behind them. The facade crumbled, revealing shadows lurking within, as if the school itself was bearing witness to their pain. In that moment, truth roared louder than any gunshot, shaking the very foundation of their lives. As they braced for what was to come, one question burned into the air. Would the truth build bridges, or burn them all down? As the explosion echoed into the air, chaos mingled with confusion, creating a storm that swept through the crowd like wildfire. Principal Anderson stood at the heart of it all, his mind racing. His eyes darted from Caleb's trembling hands to Ethan's desperate face, realization dawning like a shadow tightening around them. This wasn't just a family feud. This was a culmination of pain, betrayal, and secrets that had festered for too long. "Everyone back!" he yelled. But the crowd was already moving, a tide of fear washing over them as they sought safety. The panic surged, amplifying with every heartbeat. Sarah reached for her father, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Dad, you don't have to do this!" But Ethan's gaze was fixed on Caleb, a mix of regret and urgency in his eyes. I didn't want this. I wanted to protect you, Sarah. Each word tumbled forth, heavy with years of absence and fear. Caleb shook his head, pain morphing into chaos. You think you're saving us? You're just feeding this madness. Tears welled in his eyes, anger intertwining with despair. My family was destroyed because of your lies. Annie stepped closer, grounding herself in the unfolding chaos. No! We can't just keep blaming each other. This isn't what our families wanted. Just then, the building trembled again, and a loud crack interrupted their shouting, cutting through the whirlwind of emotions. Students screamed and flinched as the ceiling began to shift, dust cascading down like a sad farewell. The moment felt surreal. Time slowed, breaths held, and hearts racing. Let's leave. We can't stay here, someone shouted from the back, igniting a stampede. No, Sarah cried, planting herself between her father and Caleb. If you shoot, it won't fix anything. Just stop this madness. For a split second, everyone held their breath, eyes locked, waiting for the inevitable clash. Then, like a spark in a powder keg, the truth exploded. Ethan's voice broke the tension. You think fighting will bring back what was lost? This has to end. In that heartbeat, a fragile shift occurred. Caleb's grip on the gun faltered. You're right. It won't fix anything. But I don't know how to forgive. Amidst the turmoil, a flicker of hope ignited within Annie. Then let's figure it out together. We have to change the narrative. It's time to heal, not hurt. The silence hung heavy. No one dared to breathe. Slowly, Caleb dropped the gun to the ground, the echo of its fall resonating louder than any gunshot. We can't let their mistakes define us. Let's write our own story. As fear began to ebb, the reality of their connections settled around them. Secrets, pain, and hope intertwined like threads in a tapestry. Each character, once a part of the chaos, now shifted towards reconciliation, the darkness giving way to the fuzzy light of potential healing. Tears streaming down her face, Sarah reached for Caleb, her voice barely a whisper. Together, we can break these cycles. As the crowd began to disperse cautiously, Principal Anderson felt a weight lift. There, amidst the wreckage of their past, lay the first steps toward understanding. But in that moment, as they gathered loosely together, laughter and tears blending into an uncertain future, the wind whispered secrets still waiting to be uncovered. The night felt heavy with promises unspoken. What exactly would they build from this fractured foundation? The question lingered in the air, a tapestry of their lives unfolding further. Now you've witnessed a story of pain, resilience, and hope, but there's more to come, and you need to be part of it. Subscribe now to ensure you don't miss a single exclusive story. Smash that like button to support us with the algorithm, and flood the comments with your thoughts and theories. Share this video with 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait any longer.